Hello. How's it going? Yeah, I don't think you deserve a cookie. Maybe two.
Did you speak of our little class yesterday?
I enjoyed. Did you get him with a group of people that were talkative?
What?
Did you get him with a group of people that were talkative?
And Samantha stayed at our table.
Oh, very good.
So I just learned a bunch of stuff. I wrote it all down. I had a procedure this morning in my bag. So kind of.
When I get told, just lie down on the floor.
Yeah, I may do that if you don't
That's
mind.
right. She might join you. You're not getting sick, are you?
No, no. It was for like 8.
Uh-oh,
Just kind of one of those foods.
a reflux situation.
What about reflux?
Post-nasal drip or something. Nasty.
So I started doing the test, and how much do you want us to write on? I just kept going and going because I kept finding more stuff. Do you want like abbreviated answers? You don't need the fluff. Yeah, to the point is fine. And you know, I'm a to the point person, and I was surprised I was writing so much.
You come back.
I'm dragging today.
Oh, you poor little.
Oh, dragging.
I'll be here Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. I'll get your rest Wednesday.
Snowing and carrying on.
Uh,
It'll be good.
I understand.
Were they mean to you today?
Not too bad. Not
Oh,
too bad.
yeah. There's a thing on one of those deals on the computer that a 5-year-old beat up the teacher in Florida.
I saw that. I just saw I just saw the headline. I didn't read the story.
When the paramedics got there, she must have just been sitting on the floor, just unresponsive.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty awful, yeah.
My impression is that everybody's looking forward to this class.
The
the
landscape,
next class.
oh, the last cap, looking for the last class.
It's not the last class. The last one, but we have
For a little while.
I like the class.
more classes.
Oh, it's,
You haven't gotten rid of us yet.
when do we get to go out with you out when we go look at things? When I start getting more phone yard calls, and I actually got a yard call request today. Okay. I'd love to do that.
He's like looking for a lot of our classes, and I was thinking it'd be 2022, these are the list classes, and I'm like finding them on YouTube. I'm not finding all of the classes listed. And they just kind of scattered through the emails and stuff like that.
You know, at one time they were all on our website, the Laramie County Extension website. And also at one time they were all on the Master Gardener website. So I'm not sure where they've gone to, because, you know, I do update my lectures, but I don't change them terribly from one year to the next.
Okay, because like I was seeing stuff from 2021 and older, but I wasn't finding all of them. I was trying to do part of my test. Spend an hour trying to write stuff.
I think you're going to give that little sugar.
I did that with the word. I couldn't find it. And I wasn't taking a ton of notes because thought they were out there. But, I can miss them.
Yeah, they're, I can try and, this week is a little tough, but,
Just because you have like 1,000 bees. What do you think?
Did you get those pamphlets that were out there at the farm and ranch thing? Because some of the answers are in those pamphlets.
I
Do you have
didn't
more
see them,
pamphlets
so they were for
upstairs that are? So
They
that
were for the
might be.
visitors.
Oh, no, I thought I'm a visitor.
I was thinking they're more for the
A
guests.
stranger in a strange land.
The seed people seem to think I'm the person to do the 500 seeds to a packet.
oh, really?
Cool.
Yeah, that's fine. You can get a visit, and then sometimes you get seeds. Don't tell anybody.
I felt sorry for the guy that was there that was doing, separating good from bad, sunflower seeds.
Right,
I'm like, ooh, but I'm not doing that.
yeah. I've helped separate the good from bad seeds, and it's a little tedious.
One thing that was interesting last night, I don't know if my partner over here worked with, but these people have just moved here again. I always keep, So the gal had been in Ecuador on a farm, and then, is that where they met or did they meet somewhere else? So people would ask questions and it's like, well, the farm I worked on, if the crops died, we just went on and planted something else. We didn't, and then it was like, in Denver, this is what we did. And it's just like, we're not Denver, we're not Colorado, we're us.
She was just sharing different experiences about gardening.
But people would ask, at the end, somebody was asking how to kill their buffalo grass, a whole yard of buffalo grass. And, and it's like, does anybody know? And there's just
I know.
silence, and then they all start.
Yeah, you just take Roundup to it. I realize that you're talking organic, but,
She said, roll it with a paper roll that was on the.
yeah, the other thing is to rototill the whole thing and then go through with a rake and rake out all the stones. People want to do the organic thing, but they don't want the work behind it.
Yeah.
Since we're on the subject, you told me to roll it last fall, which I didn't do. Can I still do it in spring?
Yeah, just watch it because Roundup only works if there's active green growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just barely.
You gotta touch green stuff.
I'm gonna do what you suggested, and do the whole run by the side.
Oh, I know. I was thinking.
Big flower garden.
Yeah, that's a tough area to go and it's on a little bit of a
It's in sun all
slope.
day.
Yeah, it's
I
hot.
mean, it's in sun from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's a hot spot, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of plants that will do well in there. Sedum is one of them. The Russian sage will do well in there. There's a whole bunch of really hardy plants. Peonies will do well in there.
Well, I'm sorry, what was the last one?
You got, any of the
Yeah.
sedums, SEDUMS,
Okay.
the Russian sage.
Yes.
The Russian sage comes small now. You can get it so it's only this big. And then peonies will do well in there because they take advantage of the spring moisture and they bloom and then they go away. And baby's breath is actually pretty drought tolerant. Poppies.
I like this topic.
So there's really a huge choice.
They're putting a cable in, fiber optic cable in front of my house. And I was hoping that meant they were gonna dig up that area for me, but they're digging it underground. So I don't even know they were there.
Yep. Got some pretty cool toys to do that with.
Maybe if you went out and asked and looked sad.
When you're young, though, you don't pay as much
Oh, here we
attention.
go.
How do you do that? How's it going?
I know, actually.
That was a full elevator.
It was a full
Yeah.
I know part of it, but it's like, it's piecemeal, but it's not all.
My husband got some battery acid on his jeans. And so of course they're eating holes and all of that stuff. And he was showing me today and I'm like, honey, you are so stylish. Do you know how much, because I'm a high school teacher, I said, do you know how much my kids pay for jeans like that?
Yep. Well, for a long time, we used to put up small square hay bales. So they're like anywhere from 50 to 700 pounds. So you pick it up and you drop it right here,
Right,
and then you do that. My jeans would have, especially my left leg, it was just shredded. Both of them were shredded by the.
right, right.
And I'd look at them and go, these are worth a lot of money.
Exactly.
No, I'm sure not.
It is very crazy. I grew up really, really poor. You did. You were not in holy pants. No, 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 no. So I can't. I don't understand it. I can't. So.
One of my friends, his daughter is a senior, she has her son's picture. I'm so sorry that you're not making enough money to take And he's like, what can I say? And I go, well, there's probably not much you can say.
Really?
It just looks so hot.
Yeah. That's one trend I'll never get on. But my husband.
Hi, how are you? We missed you last week. Were you
Oh, I'm watching webinars from the Audubon Society, and I can use those as, yes, okay. All right, I need to start putting my stuff in. I've got my list here that I've just, the webinars that I'm going through and stuff. And so, because I can't get to these things during the week. And so, and I found out I can't do the bee college because I have mandatory professional development. And I'm like, stop coming between me and my master gardener program.
Yeah.
So,
I've got a few of those things on my list that's like, well, when I retire, I can go do that.
yeah, exactly. And I would like to say, maybe I should have waited till I retired, but no, I wanted to do it now, you know, so. And I'm glad I've done it now. I've learned a lot. Very different type of gardening in South Texas. So I've had to change my mind about a lot of things. So, but it's been good.
Well, you can grow peanuts here.
I don't think I want to grow peanuts. I'm a flower person, and I've got such a small yard, so it's going to be a pollinator yard. So I'm happy with that.
Peanuts are fun. They don't take up much space.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Unlike what you see in Texas with fields and fields.
Right.
This is, you plant a row like this, like that, pack them in, and they have a pretty little yellow flower.
Oh,
Then she
And
put the
the bees, some of the bees like that. I send out a pill, goes down into the soil. Peanuts.
oh.
Yeah, and they're fascinating to watch, especially if you're doing any of the STEM programs with your kids.
Right?
Because you can show how this plant works differently.
Huh. Never thought of that.
Yeah.
I may have to consider peanuts then.
Yeah,
That's a cool idea.
I was out at East last week with Donna Dundon.
Mhm.
She's gonna work in that little greenhouse,
Mm.
little lean-to greenhouse.
Right.
Courtyard.
Nice.
She's working with Alex.
I don't know.
thing was recorded.
It's my first year here and I'm in South, so I don't know.
And special needs kids.
I don't know. if
Got it.
recorded that, but
Oh, I think I have heard them talking about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she's also a master gardener. Intern. And working on her hours.
So when we're in class with students, after we take the test or pass the test, we're interns. Working on our hours.
Well, and I don't know.
That's why I have you guys start off on hours right away.
Yeah.
That way you can
Yeah.
It doesn't feel so daunting.
It does feel daunting, but I'm kind of excited about this summer because, you know, I'm off during the summer. And you said that we might go to Lavender Farm one time. I would love to do that. And then also to go to UW and see the garden that's on top of the, yeah. That was last time.
That's it. Well, we already got the test. We don't need the one we got.
I looked at it and I'm like, dang, all the way down, dang.
This is the test that was online today?
Yep.
In the email? Yep. I could not get anything to work.
Yeah, it's a huge file. So that's why I brought some copies tonight. Hey, Charles. Just to make it easy for you guys, there's 2 chairs right over there. There's a table with 2 chairs over there.
Well, until May 4th. No, it's next week, not the 6th.
So we don't have class on Monday?
Wednesday.
Okay, no, this week, we don't have class Wednesday, but we have class next Monday and Wednesday, or just next Wednesday? Okay.
And then we meet on the 4th for the pruning.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
Did you ever?
No.
Okay, I saved the ones you sent me, and I was like, oh, maybe she's recovered them, so I didn't send it, so.
One of
okay.
my friends is being real pushy, and she's like, well, I went on their website. So there must, because I thought there was something that would just come up. But she, apparently they put a bunch of stuff there and said, we're working on it. If you didn't get it, and I said, no. I mean, I can call tomorrow, so we don't have to just round with that.
No, I can send it.
There's sort of, oh, no, I mean, it's not an emergency. I just didn't, I couldn't remember, there was something in the night, I sit there and think about something. I was like, oh, and there was that. I mean, I don't know what I saw. Seems like one of the people sent us stuff. Scott sent us something about, oh, if we wanted to do there was a love lecture every week or something. And I was gonna sign up for that, but I didn't do that.
I signed up, there's a lecture, I signed up for that from the one in Nebraska. Is that the one you're talking about? There was one, and so that's every Thursday till like the end of March. So if you don't know about that, the University of Nebraska, I'd have to look.
Well, I went on the website for entomology for the University of Wyoming. And there's something moving up, but I just like, you know, I just. We went to the Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Outside of it.
Right.
And I'm sure. I was just gonna like, the gal says, I've never been through hail. And I said, we don't have it.
Oh, That was one thing that really got me is how much hail because it's so sporadic.
We're in the hail belt.
Yes, it's like you can count them on hail here.
Roses belt and these strut belt. Hail belt. Not looking good.
Well, you know, there's a lot of looking opportunities. A lot of. Where did I see that?
That's why I wrote it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I asked for, I'm confused. Well, I can't count other people's beds. Usually if one person asks.
I told her the secret word.
Yeah.
Kim knew what it was.
Well, good evening, everything, and everyone, and welcome back. Yeah, this is a crazy week for me. I did send out an email, hopefully everybody got it, and if you can't download and print the test, I have copies here for you. No, that's not what everyone wants to hear is the test, but it is an open book test, and if you get stumped, you're welcome to email or call me. Surf the internet if you want to, just be careful of your sources, because it's not a one-size-fits-all gardening world. So I have printouts for you if you want it. And the next class will be March 16th. So we're going to skip 2, and then Wednesday on the 16th, we'll all come back together. We'll go over the test. We'll eat cake or cupcakes, and then it usually takes about an hour to an hour and a half that night, and so I let you count that time too. This is kind of not classroom, but it kind of is classroom. One of those things. So how many of you have started on your hours? Have some hours on the way? Great.
Maybe start somewhere.
You can just bring it to class on Wednesday, or if you turn it in on Monday, or how do you? Just bring it to class
On Wednesday.
on Wednesday. So I've got a whole bunch of handouts for us tonight on landscape design. I'm really going to change the way you think about doing a landscape and how you've done it in the past. Yeah, like I said, I have a lot of handouts. So one of the first things I take away from you is that notion of naming the plant, running around with the name of the plant and trying to fit it into the landscape. So instead, we work with color of the bloom, when it blooms, and how big it gets or how small it is. But we don't actually name the plant. And so that's just really a hard one for a lot of people to kind of wrap their head around. I don't care what the name of the plant is. You can take that information, bloom time, color, height, to a nursery and say, this is what I'm looking for. And they'll go, oh, let me show you what we have. And so they'll take you on a tour. So if you're looking for something that blooms in the spring, it's yellow, and you only want it to get about 2 or 3 feet tall,
the nursery people will be able to take you around and show you what you need. And that way it avoids disappointment, frustration, and kind of, a feeling of I'm not doing anything right, kind of defeat sort of thing. If you name the plant and then you go on a search for it and you spend the whole summer searching for that one plant because you saw it in Better Homes and Gardens, or there was a great internet article on it, and now you can't find it, you're going to be just really disappointed, and you end up stopping. So it's much better to set yourself up for success and say, orange, 2 feet tall, blooms in the summer. And it will look at it. Go to the nursery and have the nursery people do the footwork for you. And they will take you around and you'll get to see all sorts of things. And that's when you make your decision on which one you want and how you want it to grow. So with that, so a sustainable landscape design describes a landscape that supports environmental quality and conservation of natural resources. So that's your goal, is to support the existing environment. And maybe you want to improve that quality and conservation of natural resources. And once established, it should grow and mature virtually on its own as if nature had planted it. So that means less pruning, less weeding, less fussing with it, maybe more native plants or semi-native plants. And so you're trying to get that sustainable point where you're not a slave to that flower bed or that landscape. So the focus of a good landscape design, and this is Xeriscape Principles, is to enhance or modify the existing microclimate. In my case, I've built a couple of areas that are shady on purpose. So I've created a microclimate of shade, and now I can take advantage of that. Increase plant and wildlife diversity. So what you bring in, you should see the change. You should see more bees, more butterflies. Maybe you're trying to get hummingbirds to stop over on their migration. So you're trying to increase that plant and wildlife biodiversity. You want to reduce your water use. Everything I've got is on drip or pretty close. And then you want to reduce maintenance. So when I do yard calls, I always tell people I want to take chores away from you and I want to help you be more sustainable and have more playtime. Won't less, play more. So one of the first things you do, so we go back to class number 2, is we want to do a site analysis. And again, when I walk onto a site, I try to figure out where north is right away. And if I don't know, I grab my iPhone. It has a cool little app on it that tells me where north is. And so I open that up and I double check, because that has really helped me out on a number of occasions to know exactly where north is, so I can give people the best information.
So what the microclimates, if you're doing this, shady areas that are only partially shady, and is that what you're asking for?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can have
Things that are tucked away. Shady.
Yep. So you can have everything from full shade, part shade, full sun, everything in between. So those are your microclimates. Some are better than others. Tom was talking tonight about his yard where he's got this, it slopes down to the south. It's a hard area, it's a difficult area, doesn't get a lot of water. And so that's a challenging microclimate right up there. It's kind of one of those not so good spots, but you're gonna make it better.
12 hours of sun.
Yeah, well done. And then measure the site. Measure until you never, till you know every inch. Put down the microclimates, make notes, that this spot is kind of wet, in the spring, this spot is wet, in the summer, this spot is really hot and dry. Put your sun angles in, and then I usually work on a scale of 1 inch equals 10 feet. So have a scale. So when I talk about measuring a site, you're going to get a plot plan, and it's going to have some measurements on there. But what you really want to do is find out and really anchor that house or that structure down to the property. And so this, just because it's 12.5 feet here doesn't mean it's going to be 12.5 feet up there. So you measure, the reasons for all of this is based on the mature size of the plant. So that blue spruce that looks really cute in that pot, and we all know it's going to get to be 25 feet wide at the base. You don't want to put it like in this strip because it's going to eat the driveway, eat your neighbor's driveway, and it's just going to be miserable. So measuring helps you make right choices and avoid mistakes. It also helps you know how many plants you're going to need for a spot. This site here is 12.5 feet, and I didn't measure that, but you can figure out exactly how many plants you need for here. If each plant needs to be put 12 inches on center, then you can grid this out and you know exactly how many plants you need for that location. So the water-wise garden, which is getting to be more and more important. Get a plan, put it down on the paper. Have an idea of what you want. Create practical turf areas. I see so much corner to corner lawn, and it just is so unnecessary. And yet I see people rock it all in as an answer, and that's not the answer. That just makes your space hot and dry. Just makes it hotter in the summer, colder in the winter. Improve the soil if you can, and kind of backing off of that one, you just minimal. You want those plants to adapt to what's there. Use mulches. I use a lot of mulches. I replace my mulches constantly. Irrigate efficiently. The drip irrigation, soaker hoses. Put the water right on the ground, not in the air. And maintain the landscape. So there's going to be some maintenance, but we're trying to get away from a lot of maintenance. To me, a lot of maintenance is getting the hedge trimmer out and trimming that hedge into a ball or something. And we've seen it all. So maintain the landscape wisely.
When you said replace the mulches, do you mean just put mulch back on top of the mulch after it's decomposing, or do you pull it out?
No, when it decomposes, I replace it.
Okay,
I
all
just
right.
put more on top of it.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's a hard one to chase. What do you want with your landscape? What is your goal with what you're working with? What kind of theme do you want? What do you want to see? And where do you want your landscape to go to? So get an idea, develop a theme. You can do butterfly gardens, native bee, hummingbird, rose gardens, herb garden, Victorian gardens, formal or informal. So formal is going to be very fussy, very maintenance heavy. Do a moon garden. Moon garden is all white flowers. And when it's a full moon out, the white flowers just glow under there. Shade garden or specific color garden. I've got one garden I'm working on now that's yellow. And it's just very bright, stands out and says hello. So you can work on a color. So where do you want this to go for? And I throw in the garden for entertaining, having parties, because I've had a few master gardeners come up to me afterwards and go, I want this big space, and I'm gonna party. I'm like, okay. And then it should also have good winter appeal, and it should withstand the test of black and white of winter. So does it have good winter texture to it? So an herb garden, and it doesn't say, you can have a lot of little gardens throughout your landscape, and depending upon the microclimates and where they're located, you could say this microclimate is this theme, and this is my herb garden, and this microclimate is my rose garden because it's hot and it's full sun. And then I've got a shade garden over here, and I've got my sedum garden over there. So you can have different areas within the landscape having different themes based on your microclimate. So I put this one in here because there's a lot of people that live down in the avenues or in areas where there's a lot of big mature trees. For those of us who are out in the prairie, we have to make our own shade. So there's a lot of plants that will tolerate shade. Hostas, oh my gosh, there's like 13 to 14,000 different types of hostas. And some of them got ginormous leaves. Some of them are little tiny, teeny tiny guys. And they can just come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and colors. Some of them are blue, some of them are green and white. They all bloom. They're either going to bloom a lavender or a white. So there's a whole range with the hostas to have fun with. Periwinkle. And we can grow hardy ferns here. For all of you from back east, ferns will grow here. Columbines, meadow rue. Meadow rue is just beautiful. It gets about 3 feet tall, blooms in the summer, and it's purple. Bulbs, Daphne, Burke Woodeye, Bleeding Heart, Mock Strawberry, Sweet Woodruff, Cranesbill. So there's a big list of stuff that will grow in shade. So don't be afraid of the shade. Don't say, well, nothing will grow in there. Because there's actually quite a bit of stuff that will tolerate shade. So Xeriscape, which I often hear confused with the word xeroscape, doesn't mean no grass or all rocks. And so when I see landscapes that have been just rocked in, that's just really harsh and hot and hostile. And so to me, it's a very hostile landscape. It's not very welcoming or a good utilization of that property. So Xeriscape can be absolutely gorgeous. So again, start putting your ideas down on paper. Where do you want to go with this? Your property is going to have different microclimate, different zones, so different areas for different things. You leave out the type of plants. It's the last thing you do. You go with height, color, season of bloom first. And that's just a really hard one for people to let go. Forget the name of the plant. Just totally forget the name of the plant. But work on that season of bloom. What color do you want? What colors do you want to see? What colors do you want to see in the spring, late spring, summer, late summer, fall? What colors do you want to try to see? And then start working that into your landscape. And then what's the height that you want? It's a lot easier than trying to go, well, I found this Gaillardia, but I don't know where to put it. Or I found this XYZ plant and now I can't find it. I read about it, but I can't find it. It's that I can't find it that's really kind of defeating and demoralizing. And when you go to the nursery, you say, well, I'm looking for this plant. And they look at you and go, what? What? No, we don't have that here. And then to them, that's an end. That's an end of the conversation. And so, but if you walk in and say, I'm looking for something that's red, and I want it to bloom in the spring, maybe late spring, get about 2 feet tall. What do you have? And they will drag you all over the place. Yep. Okay, different areas around the property are going to have different functions. You have, you know, you might have a play area, barbecue area, private secluded area, area for your tools. I've got a couple areas for my tools that kind of oozed all over the place. Area for, you know, maybe you want a pond, maybe you want a greenhouse or a gazebo. So what do you want? What else do you want to see in that landscape? How do you want that all to work in there? It's like in your backyard, Lori, I mean, I can see all sorts of things up on the upper deck area. That just is like the coolest. You have the coolest lot in town, I think.
Yeah, I'll go see. Hopefully one of these days I will be able to have it open, yes.
It's come a long ways. Okay, so working with color and color theory, you know, this could make you crazy. And in nature, there really isn't any bad color combinations other than what people put together. And so what you want is to have a garden that's calming, has a sequence of color. The color should repeat itself, but it shouldn't be jumping around. You should be able to look at it and it should be restful to the eye. And when you look at this slide of bulbs, the spring bulbs, it's anything but calming. It's hard to look at. And so you want to avoid something that's just really jumping all over the place. You want it to be restful to the eye. So in nature, there are no bad color combinations. And it comes down to what colors do you like? There was this, these slides were all taken here in Cheyenne. This was doing a yard call. This was the next door neighbors. And so I kind of snuck over there and took pictures. But it's orange tulips with purple tulips. And it looks spectacular, like just spectacular. So don't discount just because of what, you know, we see with people and colors that people put together. Doesn't mean that it's going to be wrong with nature, because sometimes nature can really blend those colors beautifully. I don't particularly like yellow and pink together, but on these poppies, it's just gorgeous. Okay, so some design principles that we follow during landscape design. And this is where it gets a little fiddly. So there should be a sense of unity to a landscape. It should all kind of come together and kind of hold hands and flow. It should be a consistent style. It should repeat itself. It should, and then natural feeling should kind of be evoked from that. So this all translates out into, you've got a hardscape that's paved, and it's paved with, let's say, red bricks. And those red bricks lead you to a raised planter bed that's also made out of those same red bricks. Or maybe it's a retaining wall that's all red brick. But there's a unity to the hardscape so that it's one material all the way through. Or maybe you've made, poured a concrete walkway and you put those red bricks along the side, you line the sides with the red bricks. And so that leads you to that retaining wall or that planter that's also the same material. So that's what unity is going to do. It also refers to the plant material. So you have a repetition of plant material within the landscape too. So it should all fit, it should all come together. So texture. So this is something that Japanese gardens have mastered, is the art of texture. And so that can be everything from the leaves have texture. Leaves can be shiny, glossy, they can be dull, flat, they can be rippled. So leaves can have a lot of texture also, but it's also the surface quality when you look at the landscape. Your grass is going to have a surface texture, your trees, your hardscape, the plant material. So all of that's going to have a texture to that. And that's also going to influence how you see the landscape and how you walk through it. The landscape should have a sense of balance. So that means it can either be symmetrical, so when you look at it, it's equal on both sides. It can be asymmetrical, but still balanced. But it's all on how you put the plant material in there. So I don't have a lot of pretty pictures in here, but I do have some examples of balance of design. And this, I just love this little landscape. It's fun. It has some nice texture to it. It flows. There's a sense of unity. And it's balanced. So when you look at it, and if you were to balance it on your hand, it would balance pretty well. A little bit heavy on this side, but I think there's enough over there to support it. The texture, so you look at the rocks and the grass, and that's all the same. Those little rocks are all the same. Maintenance nightmare with the weed whacker, but here they are. It looks good. Even the little arbor to walk underneath, put some texture down, a shadow texture down on the sidewalk. So it has a nice sense of balance to it. There's a lot of unity to it because the materials are all the same. There's a lot of repetition. It flows very nicely. So it even has what you could call a rhythm to it. And so a rhythm is how you walk through a landscape. And again, this has just got some nice balance to it. It's a tad heavy on one side, but I think they kind of pull it off with some of the other material. I think it's still a little heavy on this side, but there's a lot going on. There's still a lot going on over there. And then the plant material back here is what balances it out up against the house. Okay, not in balance. You know, if you were to try to balance this on your hand, you know, where is it going to fit? Is it going to stay in your hand or is it going to fall to one side? And it's really, really heavy with all these trees planted right up against the house. Oh my God. So you can see that you can see what I mean, they're two extremes, right? This is kind of an extreme. It's kind of, but it's, but you get the idea. Okay, so transition. This is how the eye moves through the landscape, and it's a gradual change. So, you know, does your eye immediately just go to one spot and then go up, or does it stay at the ground? How does your eye move through the landscape? So this is an example of transition. This is where your eye would start down at the ground level, and then just the plant material slowly brings you up. You know, and this might be a wooden privacy fence back here, but it's covered by the shrubbery and different transition levels. Okay, portion of scale. What you put in your landscape should fit. And at one time when I lived down south, I wanted to grow a sequoia tree in my backyard. That's probably inappropriate unless I had acreage, and I didn't. I just wanted to be a snot. I mean, your juvenile delinquent wanted to grow a sequoia. And so it would never have fit the landscape, right? It would have just taken over everything. But at the same time, you wouldn't want to have 5 acres and put in a little tiny gazing pool. So you've got to try to fit what the appropriate plant material is to that site. So in town, the average lot is about 55 feet wide by 110 feet deep. And so you want to try to have trees in there that fit the site. And if you put one big cottonwood in there, that's the tree that's going to dominate what you do for the rest of the tree's life or your life at that in that spot. So you want to try to fit the plant material to the site. And so the site's going to determine a lot of cases what can go in there, what can't. So portion of scale. You know, I just love this little landscape, and you do start down at the bottom, so there's a good transition here. And you go up and you go up, because there's a little bit of slope here. So Tom, I could kind of see you doing this in your front yard there. Good ponderosa right there. And so your eye just sort of stops at the bark, and it really doesn't go up. This tree is unfortunately got mountain pine beetle, and they had to bring it out. But if they had some more shrubbery in the back, or scattered in through here that was about 4 feet to 5 feet tall, that would have really complemented that sense of transition and given them a lot of privacy, because this was a corner lot. Okay, so rhythm. Rhythm is what pulls you through a landscape, and it kind of sets the tone and the speed for which you do it. You know, if you look at the carpets in the hallways upstairs, because there's no carpet down here, right? It's a carpet that's laid out to make you go fast because of how they've got the colors lined up. They go parallel with the walls, and so you just automatically pulls you through quickly. If they had changed that and done the color perpendicular to the wall, it would have slowed you down. So there's a lot of psychology to how all this works. But rhythm is what you feel when you go through a landscape. You know, is there a beat to it? Is there a tone to it? A rhythm? How does it pull you through? Does it pull you through fast? Does it pull you through slowly? I think this little landscape has got some great rhythm to it. It pulls me through slowly. I really want to stop, and I want to meander around. I want to look at all the stuff that's in the landscape, and so it pulls me through slowly, but yet at the same time, it set a tone of fun. So is this someone's house in the class? Okay. That's always been my concern over the years. It's like, one of these days.
That went not to do with this.
Oh, that's not my house.
Off of the, in that neighborhood. Yeah, because I walked by that house and I love it. Every time it's beautiful.
Yeah. It does have a sense of fun to it. It really does. I wouldn't want to have to maintain it because of all those river rocks and have to use the weed whacker or whatever. I just let it go along. It's just called good. So repetition. This is again where you're going to repeat that same plant material. You've got that plant that gets 3 feet tall, blooms orange in late summer. And so you want to repeat that plant throughout your landscape. You've got a brick walkway. You want to continue that brick walkway or that brick planter. So you want to repeat that. And that repetition really does help kind of calm things down and reduce some of the confusion. And again, you want to bring all this together to form kind of a unity so that the landscape is all working together with itself. And then I'm going to tell you to keep it simple and elimination of unnecessary detail. So don't overlove the landscape and make it just crazy or make yourself crazy trying to do it. Too much variety or detail creates confusion of perception. So it's a confusion of what do you want? Where are you going with this? What do you want it to be? And simplicity is the reduction of a design to its simplest functional form, which avoids unnecessary cost and maintenance.
What do you mean by?
So I've seen some designs that, someone thinks, well, I need to have, I want swoopy lines. I want it to look scalloped or something. And so they'll have, this sort of stuff. So, where's my wand? Try mowing these little amoeba arms, Yeah. So this is totally unnecessary. And I appreciate that you want some reason for it to move around, but if this is gonna be here, give it a reason, put a tree here. Here's a tree, you're going around the tree. Here's another tree here. So you're going around the tree. This doesn't make any sense at all. Get rid of it. And I have seen landscapes done like that. And they're annoying to look at. And I wouldn't want to be the person pushing the lawnmower through it, because it's just very time consuming. So versus that ease of maintenance becomes very difficult. And trying to water something with these little arms out here, now you're starting to push your cost up, because now you've got to get a sprinkler head in here and make sure that it gets all the way around where you're not. So you put another sprinkler head in here, so it goes out like this. And then you can have another sprinkler head here, because it's, when you do sprinkler heads, it's 50% overlap. So now you just upped your cost of trying to water this. And you've got to mow it, and really. So one of the things I try to do again is take chores away, mow less, go play more. I'd rather have a lawn chair out there reading a book and just watching the leaves. So that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so now that you've gotten the basic design principles, the next step is to do a schematic drawing. And this is kind of the thought bubble stage where you put your general ideas down, and it can be pretty messy, and messy is okay. Different areas around the property have different functions. Depends upon the street you're on and how much traffic or lack of traffic. Are you going to have a play area? Do you need a play area? How about a barbecue area, private secluded area for your tools, a storage shed, maybe a greenhouse, maybe a gazebo, maybe a little pond. So what all do you want? And so the fun thing about doing this on paper, and we'll do several exercises tonight, is that, this is where you have fun and you can put down whatever you want. Because you can do that at home too. So this is what a schematic is going to look like. This is, now when I say public areas, this doesn't mean that people can come over and walk on this. Although at one time, the newspaper delivery kid did, maybe the mailman does, okay? But this is an area where either someone's walking by or driving by or bicycling by. And that's just where their eye travels to. So if you've got a lot of colorful flowers here in the front of the house, that foundation planting, that's where the eye goes to, because it's colorful. It's like your sweater is red, and so it keeps catching my eye. So, and I'm wearing yellow tonight, so that should be catching the eye too. So the bright colors are going to pull the eye into this area. And then of course, we just can't help but look all the way back. Here's people. And so you've got a transition area, the backyard is your private area. You know, do you want a patio? The play area, you know, this is a shade area. You know, you've got some place to hide your trash cans. And so different areas around the property are going to have different functions and different uses. And so this is sort of that schematic area. And then you can start throwing in, well, you know, I want a vegetable garden. Where do I want to put that? I want an herb garden. Where am I going to put that? I want I want a little orchard in. Where am I going to put my little orchard? And so this is where you start thinking about the different things you want on that property. What can you do? And so this is kind of the standard lot in town. And you know, every time I look at it, I re-landscape it, I can think of different things to put in there. But you definitely want to have a clear separation between your turf and your planting areas. And again, it's for ease of maintenance, ease of mowing. And so visualize yourself in that landscape, pushing a lawnmower around, or worse, your neighbor's 12-year-old. And that 12-year-old's on a mission. There's something better to do that afternoon. He wants to make some money so he can go play. And this is just a inconvenient way of gaining money. And so he's going to run through that landscape as fast as he can. And if it's in the way, too bad. So ease of maintenance. So make sure your shrubs and your trees, it's better to have them out of the turf area. It just makes life easier for everybody, including the plants. Perennial beds have their place, a play area, vegetable gardens, hardscape. And again, it all comes down to ease of maintenance. Make your life easy and put a separation in there. And you want to draw in your hardscapes. And so your hardscape is going to be your patios, your decks, your walkways, that garden shed, maybe a pond, retaining walls, fences. You know, that's the next thing you draw in. And so that's helps guide how the rest of the landscape is going to work and evolve. So you've done your schematic, and now you're kind of at phase 2. And this is where you've got your hardscape in. And this is where you put in that separation of turf from the planting area. So I put a big patio back here and a pond. There's a walkway to the play area because, well, you know, the kids are going to run back and forth from the play area to the house, and they're going to just, you know, make a rut. They're going to make a rut that I'll never be able to grow grass or anything in. It'll be compacted. And then when it snows or rains and they go out to play, they're going to bring in the mud and the crud and everything back into the house. So I've got a brick patio with a brick walkway out to the play area. So there's that unity of materials. And then I've further delineated the turf areas from the house and where I want plants. So again, look at that and visualize yourself in there with a lawnmower. And how easy would it be to go through that landscape with pushing a lawnmower? So you've got some easy curves to deal with, you know, some straight lines, but you could go through this really, really fast. Or the 12-year-old could go through it really fast, one way. So then the next thing we're going to do is draw in the shrubs, perennials, vegetables, trees. And again, you don't name the plants. So I want a tree that's going to bloom kind of a creamy white, gets maybe 25 feet tall, blooms in June. You take that into a nursery, they're going to show you a couple different trees that do that. So instead of trying to do all the hard work yourself, let the nursery do the hard work for you. Then you add the color. Season color for your shrubs, trees, perennials, winter texture, fall color. And you write those colors down on that tree or that shrub. You know, I want it to bloom white in the spring. I want the tree to get 25, 30 feet tall, but I want it to have spectacular red fall color. You take that list to the nursery, they're gonna say, yep, follow me. I can show you exactly what we got. So then the next step looks like this. And I've taken and further subdivided this area. So this again is the turf area. And I've taken this area here. And this is my perennial beds and shrub beds. Now I'm saying I want something tall, 30 feet. White spring, 6 to 8 feet. And I want something that's red in the fall, but only is 5 feet. So I'm the transition, how your eye is going to transition to this landscape. So I got kind of short. I would probably put something else that's even shorter right up in here. And then this tall thing is going to be the backdrop for those other guys up front. So I'm doing a transition, but I'm also directing everybody's eyes. So who's traveling here, I want their eye to go right there. Or I want their eye to stay down here. And then you can add color. And so that would further help you understand what you're trying to achieve. And yeah, it's messy, that's okay, kind of hard to read. But you get the idea. And then I'm going to even take it the next step. And I decided I want 3 trees, maybe 20 feet tall, bloom pink in the spring. And I'll go to the nursery and see what they've got, but I'm not going to try to name it. About the time I say, oh, I want a pink sparkles crabapple tree. And you go to the nursery and say, I want pink sparkles, they're going to look at you and go, you want what? So it's better to say I want high color season of bloom. And they're going to go and show you, oh, we've got purple prints over here. And you move on, I didn't even think about that one.
How many nurseries are there in Cheyenne that you can go?
There's only one, and I probably, well, that's a lot, it's complicated. Complicated. But you'd be better, you know, unfortunately, well, you can go up to Torrington and there's a really great nursery up there. It's called Great Gardens. And that is a very fun nursery up there. That is a very cool nursery. And really good people up there. Got to go early in the spring. They kind of specialize in roses. So if anyone's been to the Great Gardens up in Torrington, that's a really cool little nursery. Otherwise, your choice is to go down into Fort Collins. And Fort Collins has got like 4, maybe 5 nurseries. Yeah.
Wonderful boulders.
Yeah.
And then Robert left in the boulders are great. Boulders. Great boulders.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to introduce you to Brandy Dahill, who has a love affair with rocks and boulders.
They have like every size you really want. They have a rock plant.
She found another place in town, and I think it might be Pioneer Landscaping, where they really specialize in the rocks, but at a not as expensive as Riverbend. Yeah. I don't know what it is with master gardeners and rocks. I've been on some yard calls and we're standing in the driveway and the master gardener sees a sparkly rock in the driveway. It's like, can I have that rock? And I've got another master gardener who hunts rocks, who takes the Prairie Garden Club on rock hunting expeditions out west. Yeah, so.
It's less than $5 bucket.
Yeah.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking of a place in my front yard that now has those lava rocks on it. That's how it was inherited.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get rid of them because that would be an amazing shade garden there.
Yeah.
What do I do with lava rocks? Facebook it.
Yeah, break it all into a file, show a free sign on it. And put it on
I mean,
Facebook.
it's huge, it's a big area, it's
Yeah.
not gonna be, they're small rocks, but it's a large area. It's nothing that could fit in a container.
No, I was just, it's free, like,
Maybe
Craigslist.
we can tell people they have to come and haul it away.
Yeah.
So that way.
Oh, yeah, I found really a lot of stuff on Craigslist.
I don't know, I'm not really on Facebook, but I'll-
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so again, put your ideas on paper. Yeah.
Since we're on this, I have a couple questions. One is, we're out in the prairie, and so we have some natural drainage going through the property. Are there any rules about what you can or cannot do around that drainage in terms of like planting trees, shrubs, or
So
you
it's
can't
just,
block it, but what else is there anything else?
it's just a natural drainage flowing through your property. Is it an irrigation ditch? It's just a swale.
It's just, yeah.
So it's just a, oh my gosh, I would be planting trees in that thing. Yeah.
We have a drainage in our property too, but there's a drainage easement on it. And that is in our deed, you can't build structures. So I don't know if you have an easement on your property or not.
Call Jeff Dyer at the Laramie Conservation District and have him come. He's the water guy. So if there is any kind of, water, if it's an important area.
And it's like the guy that surveyed this drainage easement was off by like 50 feet. So really, drainage is in a different spot. And I can't do anything with some of my prime property.
Has it moved though? Because it could move. I mean, over time it could move.
Do you plant stuff in there or do you have just leave it in?
Well,
The planting plants in there helps deal with
I
some of the
figure
drainage.
it's a lot easier to beg forgiveness than ask for permission. So I have party.
You know, and after a while, the collective memory goes away of what that is. I look at it from a permaculture standpoint, it's like, so the water drains, it's like your swale with it drains. To me, that's a place to plant trees, like fruit trees which are water thirsty, or other water thirsty shrubbery, and then still supplement the water, but take advantage of that. Yeah, and I'd be looking at that differently.
Is it dry?
Or,
Child. I think it might be part of that, but I'm not sure.
yeah, either that or it's the state engineer, Jeff Geyer with Conservation District, you might know. Yeah. Call 811 before you dig, just to make sure, especially if you're in town, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We called and we figured they'd come out, and so we dug and cut an electric line. And then they came out and said, and we said, yes, we called you, and they paid to repair that line. And it's because they had a record.
Yeah,
Yeah, 48 hours.
yeah, it's
So
expensive.
we gave them 3 days, and he said, oh, they must have it.
The other thing too.
Yeah,
is
they
if you
they
call
just
them
vanished
and
in the
ask
system.
them nicely,
They
They may also be able to find a who's going to your tank. You're not technically supposed to do that, because you're supposed to like identify gas lines. But if you've got something that has a metal line to it, they'll identify where your propane line is.
Yeah.
What's the one call? Is that the same thing?
It's the same thing.
Okay.
And when they say like stay 2 feet off lines, more than 2 feet, because like, people that come out mark go through lines, right?
Yeah.
They're off. Yeah, considerably.
Okay,
So, all those people, have got them well trained.
I can call them and they will come.
What you call them?
I just yell sheep. I just stand up there and yell sheep at the top of my lungs. And I'm sure by now that everybody within a half a mile of me knows the names of all my dogs and knows how to bring the sheep in.
Are sheep pretty smart or not?
They can be really, 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 really smart and flighty at the same time. You know, it's, yeah. They're so pretty. So we're going to start off with, you guys, I handed out the sundial, sun angle, and then, so this property is the one that we've been looking at for design. So this is one I'm gonna first start with. And I've got a couple, I've got some other ones, and so they're gonna get progressively a little bit more difficult. Yeah, it stopped someplace. Who's got all the extra papers? Oh, yeah, it's all down there. Okay, so I also handed you this one. So this is how you would set up your inventory. You would put down the color of the flower, or color of the bloom, how tall you want it to get, and then when you want it to bloom. And then you go to the nursery. And you say, this is all that I'm looking for. And then you fill in the name of the plants, because that way you know they're available to purchase. There's just nothing worse than going to a nursery and saying, well, I'm looking for this. And they're going, we don't carry it. We don't have it this year, and we're not going to get it in. Kind of the end of the conversation. So set yourself up for success with these plants and go with, you know, the color, the height, and season of bloom, and then go look for the plant. So now we're going to, I want you all to do a quick site analysis. That's why you've got the sun angle. And I've got extra paper, so that if you want to write on this, because otherwise it's going to get really complicated, messy. Well, so again, do your site analysis. And the important thing is to really find those microclimates, because that's really what's going to drive your design and what's going to fit in the right place. Because you certainly don't want to get a plant that wants 10 hours of full sun, doesn't like it particularly moist. And so you don't want to put that plant in an area that's cool and moist, because it would be unhappy. So that's where those microclimates are really important. So do the site analysis, find your microclimates.
Steph? Steph. It's always confusing to me. I never got to show you my spot analysis, but it's like, this is something I want to do, maybe sit for it's time, but that's what I was doing.
Yeah, that's okay. So just like that. Let's see.
Because like in the morning, this is right. And but there's a big tree there, and so when it's down, by midday, clear away. But I inherited it, so.
That makes sense too, because, you know, this is. So the trees here will be sort of.
Big beds. See, this is the morning shade in the summer. Oh, it was in the afternoon. When I look at it, I mean, I have plants. This is what really got me. This is my real property. But, they have it straight. This is the property line that the city shows. But it really goes like this. I don't know, that's just a little bump out. I mean, it's my property after all. But why it's there, I have no idea.
And then they would just.
That fence goes, this is fence all the way. But see, this is all that, so and this used to be grass, and I took it all out, but I couldn't get a run with that. It's all-
Yeah, this is why, when I had to do the land, you know, the landscape class, I did do that stuff, other houses.
Yeah.
So as you're stuck and staring at your own property.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna eliminate that one. Okay, so once you've done the site analysis and figured out your microclimates, then it's like, how do you want the backyard to work? And so So let's put yourself into different shoes and say you're the landscape designer and I'm the client. And so I come to you and I say, in my backyard, I've got it, I want to have an area for the kids. I want to be able to look out my kitchen window and see them in their play yard. I don't want a big rut back there. I want a nice patio because I do a lot of entertaining. And so the patio or the deck area should be big and generous. And I'd like to have a water feature out there. So, ask for the moon. And I want a vegetable garden. I need to have a place for my garden tools. Got the shady area. I'd like to have an herb garden. I want perennial beds. I'd like to have some shade trees and more privacy. So with that in mind, how are you going to arrange that landscape? How are you going to put things where they belong?
Safe to assume that this box has some type of fence already existing, or is it open area?
Either way, it can be a fence or it can just be open. Yeah, it's up to you. You can put in a fence or you can leave it open.
Play area, patio, water feature, vegetable garden, tool shed, shade garden. What else did you want?
Let's see. To get herbs.
No.
Where's the kitchen and some trees now?
That's important.
Yeah, let's say the kitchen is right here.
In the back.
Yep.
Oh, because I know it's.
So keep in mind the type analysis. And one vegetable garden to have east sun is the best. Oh. East sun's best, one sun is best. Okay. And- So I want fence, all that, all that. Okay. That's one of the options. The other thing you want to do is when you're try to avoid putting in individual trees or shrubs right now. Because you're actually getting ahead of yourself by doing that. Because I'm the homeowner, and I'm gonna come by and say, well, I really don't want those shrubs there. I don't like that. So now you're going, well, what the heck? So instead go, well, how about we do something kind of like this and do shrubs and trees right there, and then, some flowers here. So try to avoid putting in, the individual plants, They say, well, I want a shrub here. So avoid doing that right now, because then it kind of gets you into, kind of like paint yourself into a corner. You're thinking too detailed at that point. And so you still want to think the broad scheme of things. Again, at this preliminary stage, the schematic stage, you really want to keep it very general, very open, very, because you want your ideas to still be very fluid and to flow. And according to Abby, my small adjective. Hard form.
I'm just like.
Again, always think ease of maintenance. And so if you have like little pods here and a little pod of something there, you still have to water that, you still have to mow it. And so don't make your life difficult. Don't make your client's life difficult. So we're still kind of in this preliminary stage. You're like, well, clay, vegetable, shrubs, trees. But try to avoid going, I want to put a tree here. Are you sure that you want to put a tree in the middle of the landscape, middle of the church? And then keep in mind that as people travel back and forth here, this is an area where the eyes go. So how do you manipulate that so you give yourself privacy? That was the other thing the homeowner wants, is they want privacy. I don't want it to be a security issue or a security hazard, but I would like to have a little more privacy. And of course, and remember, you don't want corner to corner turf. We're trying to get away from that. It's not water wise. You want to support butterflies, bees, native birds. So you want to invite those little wildlife guys in. And don't forget that we do, the homeowners ask for, a play area for the kids, but, I like to have a walkway that goes from the back of the house to the play area. I don't want them to bring a lot of mud into the house.
How do sandboxes like the there's all those equipment on top of the holders and an elevator. I know with the wind. I don't think the wind is going to blow it away, because playground sand is different than sand you see at the beach. Yeah, it's a lot heavier. It's a different sand. Yeah. I have one in the house where I didn't have a kid then, but it was really neat because they put a garden around it. And then the sandbox was really huge. And then kind of a gym on top.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you have problems with it going away. Yeah. So this would be a preliminary design. This would be the next stage. This is where we've kind of delineated the turf from the planting area, but you really haven't named or put in any plants or said, you know, this is gonna be a shrub, or this is gonna be tall, or this is gonna be little. You're still staying away from that. You're still not naming the plants, or you're not putting plant material in yet. You know, depending upon how the wind moves through the site, you know, if it comes through here, it's gonna hit the garage, and it could have a big venturi effect right between the garage and the house. And so from the homeowner's perspective, it's like, well, it's really windy between the house and the garage. What can you do to help prevent that? Can you slow it down? You're going, oh, this is Wyoming. But how would you help that site so that it wasn't quite as windy between the garage and the house? You know, how would you do that design? And again, don't put in, I wouldn't put in like little circles delineating individual shrubs. I would just go, okay, so we got a wind gap here. So maybe I bring this down like that. And I have, you know, maybe some sort of feature back here. I have a special tree or trees or shrubs. And then maybe I sneak my vegetable garden into here. So let's stop here and take a quick break. Let's take like a 10-minute break. And Mary brought in some cookies, so help yourself to some shamrock cookies. Which is appropriate for our master gardener class. Yeah.
Good luck on our test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let them make it till 9:30.
I know.
Yeah.
In general, it makes it a whole lot easier to go to the next step. When you start putting people shrubs or yeah, if I lived in town, I'd have to have a fence. Otherwise, my corgis would be going and visiting everybody.
I actually, I like that idea. I just don't know how to make it work.
Why they change?
This is Mary, is it next?
Sweet and
Good.
may the luck of the Irish. Oh, okay, well then don't take one. I thought about bringing vegetables, but it's like. I'm not. And then turned up their weapons. Very yummy. You could tell by the way I scarred that bit. I'm gonna let her go. One for the husband. Oh, well, no, we don't. For check.
I know, you just have to.
Is there hours?
Yeah.
That's one thing there is. We can start my extension off. And then again, this side. I think there might be something. Maybe I come
And they're also kind of, so not only you have babies, but you're like, I don't really know, especially yeah, and there's several, you know, I don't know, several contractors will go to Wyoming and they want them here. The few Wyoming. I think. So anyway, see what you think. Oh, yeah. No, I just want
Those like flour?
Yeah, flour. It looks like sweet stuff.
Yeah, she does.
Flour, yeah.
But like, for example, available lectures. Right next to this one. Available lectures.
The bread basket. You said it
It's on 19th and Maxwell.
may have been there. No, I haven't.
They're closed on Sundays.
Wait. No. I was there. I did go there last week or the week before, the first time I'd ever visit. Yeah. I remember going into the, they were pretty good. I got a loaf of bread that my husband doesn't eat a whole lot. I got a loaf of bread, put it in the freezer and when I said, I'm gonna get it out. And it's really good. It was really good. Right. I got a couple of things there to try out.
On the website for Mardi Gras. Flavor.
Yep, they had some people.
Did they have them in there?
I remember that. Yeah, they had, I remember they had some people. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, when I lived in Louisiana.
So what kind of flavor?
They have a lot of fruit flavors, but I prefer the cinnamon. That's the one I like. But they usually have apple and cherry, different things like that. Now, I don't know exactly what the bread basket has, but those are typical ones you'll see at the stores.
Well, I think it started by New Orleans. One moved in that big over 3 nights and they said, some states that they just take a whole
Very much. Yeah, there's a few bakeries that I like in there. Yeah.
I've never had Ferns.
Oh, they're good. My favorite though are the things called Pringles. Oh my God, they are so good.
So deep fried? No. More or less.
Pringles. So it's very similar, looks like this, so it's in a circle, remember that? And it looks like a king cake, but it usually has cinnamon and stuff. Oh, I love it.
And is it at the same time as the king cakes?
It usually is, and it's more, yeah, Hadel's Bakery, that's one of them that has really good. And Ran. Cajun, oh yeah, this is the Cajun Crinkle. That one right there, it's got the nuts, it's got like the caramel icing. So praline filling, caramel icing, decorated with pecans. That's fucking good. So bad and so good. So whereas I think they have these almost year round, whereas the king cake toward the yeah, it's called the Cajun King Crinkle at Hadel's Bakery.
And is that
New Orleans, yeah, Knowles. But they have really good stuff. They don't have cream. And I've had them ship me to Perennials. Granddad with another bakery. And then, this may be the place that just does the king cakes, the Granddad. So, but they're in Mary, which is the north of New Orleans. So, yeah, right. Granddad has king cakes. Those are good. Those are the two places that I go to get the. It's so good. The Pringles are because I love the coffee.
Oh, yeah, and those babies.
Really good. Man, maybe want to go back to this. I just miss that Cajun food so much, so I had to make some gumbo today.
This looks amazing. Oh, no. Yes, it's so good. So why was it we used the blankets to be I don't have it, did you get it?
I haven't used the blanket.
Oh, well, I used the blankets that it is. Too much room or something. I don't feel like it.
I certainly wouldn't be good for anybody else.
No, no. Go with someone.
No. But I just don't like the one time I was on irrigation. I really wish I could, you know.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I couldn't see what they were doing. Yeah, it was hard.
There's the It was great.
Aw.
Okay, so there's another house plan going through. Be handed around, I'm not sure what. Okay, so again, do a site analysis. That's always the first thing you do when you walk onto a property. Whether it's doing a yard call with me for plant diagnostics or for landscape design, the first thing you do is you do a site analysis. So always, where is north? How does the sun move through this property? Does the wind move through this property? And so analysis first thing first.
Responsible for the space between the sidewalk and the street.
If you want to be.
What the city to do. I'm gonna put a security fence. That's the first thing I should start with this. That's the first word. Yep. So I would think there's and probably something here, so that there's a private exit.
So when you're driving a car and you're coming in the street, the fence can't go over your
With reality.
Oh, God.
out there watering.
This was just like people talking down.
Oh, wow.
Somebody in this house.
I don't know. Looks like my house. I have a house. I got a street.
It's like, unfortunately, that's not one I shanghaied off.
Probably the whole thing is a bad example.
It's like, this is so old school.
Yeah, well, it's an old house, it was built in 1924.
There's probably a fire pit back there.
Yeah, there was.
That's on my yard. The concrete, they didn't take it all out. In fact, they buried it. Take that. Lilac tree up here in the front. Concrete?
You never know. No, you don't. They took care of it. Okay, well, we're trying to do our best here. Paul. It's tough.
Jeff, so site analysis, first thing you do.
You got that sun coming in.
Oh, you're a corner lot. Oh, you're very farther. Right by the fence. Yeah. You're further to fence. You did the same thing I did. We're not far, but we're not.
It's okay. My folks used to say to me, I live in a carrot place. I would love to have that soon. I've always had an apartment until now when it could really come in for my son. Are you doing all right? Look at the trees. It's not landscape anymore.
So does everybody have their site analysis done on this? So again, you're going to wear the hat of, you're the landscape designer and I'm gonna be the client. So I'm coming to you and I'm saying, I don't want a lot of lawn. I don't want to have to mow. I don't want to have to mow. I don't want a lot of lawn, but I don't want a lot of rock. I think rock is awful. So, but I want a lot of, I'm really into the Habitat Hero program. And so, I want a lot of perennial beds. I want things that are going to flower from April through October. I really, in my garden, I really like the colors red and orange and yellow. Really don't want a lot of blues or purples, but I really like the blue, hot, white colors. Want an area for my vegetable garden. I do want a patio. I do like to entertain. And I want some shade trees. This site is really hot and dry, and so I want some shade trees in there. And I love the elms, I love oaks. I want trees that also bloom, so maybe some trees that bloom in the spring and maybe some fall colors. No, I have it all. Fall colors on the tree. So how are you gonna design this? How are you gonna put in all this requirements? So not much turf, less lawn. No kids.
How about dogs?
Keep dogs, yes.
No kids.
Dogs.
Oh, we have dogs. No dogs?
Pygmy goats too.
Oh my gosh, careful what you ask.
I do want to thank you.
What's that?
I thank you.
I can't. I sold myself. You know what we're talking about, painting those?
Yeah, I think it's.
Something scares them and they go rigid and fall over. That is wrong. That is not a defense mechanism. That's called, it made it easier for the Saturday evening. So is it town, so doing something like that?
They have a backyard with grass and roses and everything.
There's a house on Story that has a tunnel right by the.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And they're kind of. Oh, that's true.
I know what I like. Right.
People, I mean, it's, you know, it's all takes up. Yeah, one side. And then there's a kind of. Do we still have Abby's budget? Yes. So I have. Where's the kitchen?
Well, this is what this homeowner is asking for. This is what they want. Less lawn, don't want to mow. No kids, past that point, do have dogs. Shade trees, flowers, April to October. They want color April to October, totally doable.
Well, you have to be real.
A patio, an herb garden, a vegetable garden. Shade trees, big shade trees.
That parameter, more.
Right. Yeah.
All year long.
Well, from April to October. The best place to have bees, be beekeepers in town. The only requirement the city of Cheyenne has is that you register your beehives with the Wyoming Department of Agriculture. That is a long story.
Yeah. Oh, my neighbor has them, and they're just. They're in the backyard. But, you know, they said you can't have roosters. Right. Right. Well, apparently they just don't have them. And he has laying hens, and they all talk, especially in the morning.
We have chickens next door.
Okay, well, I'm gonna rent over and he can live with you.
There's three neighborhoods in Cheyenne that can have
You get
chicken area.
part of the way through with this, and the homeowner calls you and says, I just learned that we can have chickens in town. Chickens for me, please.
So what kind of area do we put chickens in?
So how are you going to fit all this into the property? So again, go back to your schematic, your thought idea, and just sort of draw in general areas. It's, well, I think this is a good place for the chickens. They're out of the wind, they'll get morning sun, they'll get afternoon shade. They're close to the house, so the homeowner can run out there and harvest eggs, pick up eggs. And you know, someplace where they're not gonna make so much noise that my next door neighbors are going, oh, they have chickens now. Except they're chicken. Hens can be just as loud as roosters. Especially when they're fighting over the same nest. So how are you gonna fit all this in? You know, they want a good sized patio because they do entertain. She wants to be able to go out into the herb garden and the vegetable garden and harvest herbs and vegetables for her parties. You know, maybe some herbs and vegetables for her newfound love of chickens. And don't forget, you know, to me, this is the contradiction. I want to bring bugs into my garden, or I want chickens at the same time. No, you want to fly. Although I've known people, you know, during that whole, the whole thing with city council and listening to all the rhetoric, there was one guy that was convinced that chickens were going to run loose in the streets of Cheyenne.
Chaos.
That's what I.
Yeah, really. Everything I'm right with has to be erased.
So
Even
on
my
vegetable
pens.
gardens again, so the
My pens like
caveat is
the right-
convenient location, so that the homeowner goes out and uses them, and don't become forgotten, you know, it's just, by the time August comes along and you've garden, you've weeded it for the 100th time, you're going, yeah, where's the dross? So this is just have to be and that's okay. So you just sort of, you know, do a little area and you say garden, you know, with a decorative fence. Yeah.
So a lot of people. Stuff, plus in California, especially the weather, they, that turf is really, really bad. they don't want it large. So I did an article a while ago, last year, when they had artificial turf. And it hadn't been done right. And so the water train had stayed there underneath it, and their tree was dying. One called me out to look at the tree, because they didn't know where the tree was dying. And I looked at that, and I'm standing on the artificial turf, and I was like, well, this is entirely too easy. And I said, do you mind if I peel it up? No, go ahead. And I reached in there, and I got to the corners, and I pulled it back and up, and it was clay, and it was heavy, and it was kind of a green gray color because it was anaerobic, and it was full of slugs. Oh, and that's how the homeowner said. They don't put anything underneath it. Well, that artificial turf is supposed to be like allow air. What's that?
It's a big, that's right.
Give him the ice.
Well, if you don't know what it is, I'm sure it's just a little piece of.
My neighbor cares me.
Red.
Flowers, trees, shrubs, flowers,
That's right. You know. Oh, really? Well, that's one way to try. Morning session, I thought a big tree right here. We'll have a dead section of it. Oh, okay.
And there was a rental house. And the grass was woke up this morning, and then I was on the internet, gotta go in there and mow the grass. And he just laughed at me by the end of the day. The grass was gone. Oh, it never came back.
Okay, so is everybody getting along with this one fairly well? Where are y'all putting the chicken coop? Next door. Next door. So the chickens are going in the northwest corner behind the garage. I was gonna try to find it.
Down south, they call that Texas barbecue.
Sneak them in there someplace.
Well, I put them right there, but I don't know if that's a good place or not. I don't know that much about chickens, so I don't know if I should move them to over there.
I would probably swap the herbs.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna take it to the next step. So now you've got all these kind of thought bubble areas in. And now you're going to kind of delineate out where the trees are gonna go within, because now you've separated turf from flower beds and trees areas, right? So you've got practical ones, not huge ones. So now I want you to start to fill in where the shrubs are gonna go, where the trees are gonna go. And so that's gonna look a little different. So if this is your property line here, and you've got an area. Here's the property line. You gotta give these bumps reason for existence, right? Because otherwise they're just maintenance issues. So I want to do some nice transitioning here. So I'm going to do a tree here, but I want it to be a pine tree. And so I'm just going, this is how you designate a pine tree. It's just these little hashes. It's kind of bottle brush look. And then I want some shrubs in front of that pine tree. I want something else in front of that shrub. I don't want to have all of the same thing, but I'm going to put in 6 shrubs here. I'm going to put in 3 shrubs here. And I'm going to put in 4 shrubs there. I've got a tree here. I don't want it to get really big. So I want a 30-foot tall pine. So 30 feet tall at maturity, which means that it's probably going to have about a 10 to 15 foot spread. So that means that this area here is probably going to be about 20 feet wide. So on that property we're working on, that would fit, that would work someplace on there. But I want to keep on going, and so I want some more shrubs back and through here. I want them all connected. I want them touching. I don't want them just as a single island by themselves. I want a solid wall of shrubs. And in this area through here, you know, low, so like 24 inches or less. And I want another, because of how the sun comes in, remember, afternoon shade. Sun's coming in here, and so the shade is going to be out like this. And lawns do a lot better if they have some afternoon shade. So I want a big shade tree here. So I want this to be 40, 50 feet tall. And that means it's gonna be about 30 feet wide at the base across. But keep in mind, your clients wanted April through October blooming. And so now you're kind of going, well, what else can I squeeze in here? You know, and so maybe you've got some smaller trees back and through here. They get 20 feet tall, but they have a different bloom season, so you can actually see them before this blooms, or this leaves out. And maybe there's some shade lovers back in there, because that's gonna get pretty shady. Not gonna get much morning sun, a lot of afternoon shade. So this is the next step I want you to do, is to start figuring out where you want these trees and shrubs, and, you know, what is the bloom color, height, and when. What's that say? Just say it again.
Software programs out there that you can like some of this stuff out on. Yeah.
How do you get
Okay, so when I do a pine tree, again, I do this kind of like you're looking down on a bottle brush. And so this would be my pine tree here. And then this with the little whiskers coming off of it, that would be my deciduous tree. Yeah. And then these guys would be my shrubs.
That pine tree, are you gonna trim it up from the bottom or deliver it?
You're gonna use Miracle Grow on.
You're freshman over
Okay. So start putting in your shrubs and trees, and again, the client wanted shade, afternoon shade, cool backyard. You know, she wants the trees to help shade the house, cool the house. Corner lots, you know you're gonna have kind of a wind issue. Security issues have come up a couple times. I would probably use the shrubbery for my security. But I would try to find shrubs that also bloom, kind of my multitaskers. So they're gonna do a bloom to support bees, native bees, and maybe produce berries for the birds. And you have to provide me with some security and a windbreak, kind of a little mock windbreak.
Not Nash Girl here in Cheyenne.
Service. Yep. Again, don't worry about the name of the plant. So, you know, if you want something like that, you would go, well, I want it to be about 20, 25 feet tall. I want it to bloom white, and I want red berries. That's how you would describe it.
I've been taking pictures of like damaged trees when I do walks around town. Are you interested in seeing any of those photos, or if I just been like creeping on people's yards?
I'm sure there's a lot of people glad that I'm no longer downtown Cheyenne. Because that was one of my favorite things to do. But yeah, I'm always interested.
Well, and they're redoing like the stupid road on the north side of the Capitol again, and they're like ripping it out, putting new sidewalks and stuff. And it's just kind of interesting, some of the things that I worked around on that project when we were doing the Capitol are now like dying.
Yeah.
And I like the concrete that they put over the
Yep.
trees, so I was actually responsible.
Yep.
But yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Like all on one side.
Yep. Yeah, I took pictures when they were when they first started that, they were ripping all the concrete out. And they just ripped through all sorts of tree roots. And then they came back in and compacted on top of what was left. And so that was all the trees that were between the road and the sidewalk. And yeah, that was ugly. The Archdiocese did, over at their place, they had a whole bunch of honey locust trees. When they redid the sidewalk, that was sad.
There's like one really large tree in particular that was like protected. Like, on-site activity, stuff, and it's still.
Yep.
So and I remember working outside of that protection, but now that I think about it, I see we're still on a tree. So like,
Yeah, because when they did all that construction, they changed the environment the tree had become accustomed to, it would adapt it to. Then they stressed it out and then they never watered it. Yeah, I wonder why it's dying. So those are the go back to your site analysis and how are those trees going to shade? And does the homeowner have to mow around those trees?
About the house.
So that is the.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want more than just one shade tree there. I want to have a couple of them. And putting that pine tree in the front yard. Why is that there? Is there going to be more gardening around it, more landscaping around it? How is the mowing going to work? Yeah, I don't know. I usually do.
No.
So what is this? I know they love flowers. Right, so you must cut those flowers from that. Yeah. Yeah. That's okay, you know, you're getting it, you're getting it. Definitely master gardener living there.
No.
Who knows what she's doing? A plus plus plus. There's a program for everything, if you know.
Yeah. That's true. Oh, I already did that. That's one of the first things I did. I've got something like that in my, oh, that's what I want to do. Yeah. Park it on the chicken.
Yeah. Put a little driveway right, move it right in.
Well, here's the alley. You could just do a little driveway back there. By the patio. You could, you know. That's where you have to pull over. Put it on our beach, you know. Don't live in a house.
My husband in our alley, there's a little driveway. Gate thing, so that's where he's parking his pop-up camper. But they've decided now, he and my son, that it's too much work to try to drag in there every season after, so they're gonna get rid of it. Well, there are.
Right. Yeah, really. No.
A tower. With a basic, animals survive better protected from the ground.
Oh, yeah.
No, that you can.
Oh, yeah, that's what she's got right there, I think.
Bye, George.
Okay, wonderful. I'm done. I'm done.
I'll figure this out myself.
The guy that did the drawing, the garden said the rose had been so they're all in the basement and we're gonna have these. Oh, it is. It was snowing out and the windows, both of these big windows. Yeah. Well, I had to go have it snow all the time. I was just shut it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I thought you did well.
Good luck. And I'm gonna do like a good like that.
Is this, what is it, you know? Yeah.
But I'm sure you're gonna have more fun. Show your phone, show your phone. Look at this, it's just beautiful.
It gets turned around, you know, I can do it according to my. Where's that?
I'm all like shaded, I'm like, where is it? Because I don't have. Well, I do have places, and I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I just planted them this past weekend, so not yet. Yeah, we did. Yeah. You never know. Oh, man. Yeah, really. I'm hoping some of mine will be ready for the sale, you know. I don't know. All right. Well, they wanted red, orange, and yellow. So I gave them red, orange, and yellow, except in the shade garden. And then the outside, I kept those green. Got it all. Well, mine right now is a blank slate. So we'll have to see.
Okay, it looks like you guys are mostly getting it.
Mostly.
Shoehorn in, throw your college degree in. You guys are starting to understand the concepts. And plants are the last thing you add. The names of plants are the last thing. So that little sheet I gave you where you can put in the color and type and bloom. That's what you would fill out when you go to the nursery and say, can you help me with this list? And so then you fill in the names of what you want. Because now you know for sure that you can actually buy it, it's there, you can find it. So, and then some of the real specialty plants for habitats, you're gonna have to mail order. There's not a lot of options. So, everyone's getting this right? Right?
I don't know, do you ever use like multiple layers in yours? Because it seems like mine's really cluttered. You layer yours like a blueprint, you do the outline, and then you have to plant some with different
Yeah, I would
identifiers.
just use tracing.
Yes.
So I would start off with my schematic, but then my hardscape, then my preliminary, then I would keep layering like that. So I end up with like 5 or 6 layers. Yeah. What would you do in the strip by the street? Something with that, or would you do this? I'd do something with it. I would probably go more for top part plants, low maintenance, put in some blocks, maybe some little boulders in there.
So you can call the city. I'm not really sure if part of the call is, I just have the information desk. And I'm way down. I'm sure that left the landscape. No, I know they will have the landscape, but the I would call the conservation district. And their phone number is 772-2600. Ask for Sean. The whole class. They have a beautification program. $1,000. And it's specifically to beautify those spots that you're talking about. And they could probably help you around, figuring out how to do that, who to talk to, and all the, the registry. Well, where did you mention this? I know it's $1 million, so as the least, working about this time, but the rule was conduct. That's all part of the civil rights, equal opportunity, and, make sure that you're not discriminating. I have to report that stuff too. But because I didn't know, I wanted to help you with this expectation. After they start coming, people will help. But it gives you maximum 9. Don't worry about it. Okay. Don't worry about it. Don't let it make you crazy. Don't worry about it. Yes. Somewhere, and I think it was water gardens and keeping surface water out of the street drain. That's when they were how there's done and the street get kind of built up. They were cutting that back and lowering, so the water was running off the sidewalk into the flowers in the garbage strip. So we're talking about rain gardens essentially. And so if you go down to Antique Central, which is it, I think it's like, is it Tomes? No, it's like yeah, you can find ACP. Yeah, it's over by the lumber company. Yeah, Benton, like 2026, I think. But if you go over to Antique Central, Nancy Loomis has built an amazing rain garden. And so she's taken all that runoff that came off the roofs, and she's made a big swale and captured all that water. And it's an engineered little pond, and it's filled with flowers and everything. And it holds the water, so it prevents water from going into the drainage system. Onto the road, there's a drainage system, so it holds it there. And that's also the same thing she did up at the library. The drainage pond at the library. Yeah, that's pretty cool that she's done that. Yeah. So if you're interested in trying to capture the rain off your roof, hold it and use it for beneficial use, Nancy Loomis is my go-to person on that. Rain gardens. Yeah, but that's a really cool thing to do, is to dig out that strip between the sidewalk and the street, make a swale in it, so that the water drains into it, and then you plant it with wildflowers or native flowers or whatever makes you happy. Writer, anything communities have sewer and rainwater all go into one system, so it's different, so we just help them out with this. And over the years, Cheyenne has done a lot of, paying taxes to address the water drainage issue in Cheyenne, because Cheyenne's in the bowl. If you look at how Cheyenne is geographically, we're in a bowl, so if you want to leave Cheyenne, it doesn't matter what direction you want to leave Cheyenne, right, you gotta go up the hill. You come to Cheyenne, you go down into the hill. And so we have a drainage problem. And so they've been trying to address that since 1984, 85, when we had a big flood. Yep, 84. And so speaking of that we're in a bowl, so we get a lot of hailstorms, right? We're at fault for that. We've created that situation. And so because of that bowl, and now we've planted more trees, we've got more lawns, we irrigate more, we've created, and cities are always hotter than the prairie is going to be. So the city can be 10 degrees hotter. And so you add the heat and you add the moisture and you add this bowl. And so heat and moisture will rise, they hit the cooler air, they mix. And because we've added so many more trees and lawns, it creates this monster storms over the top of us, and that's why we get the hail.
Which is ironic because it destroys the trees.
Yeah, and at some point we'll have a balance, we'll get back in balance as more trees go out into the prairie, like we move out in the country. So eventually get kind of balance it out, but that's why we're in a bowl. Everything goes around like this, fills above us. It can be monstrous. And the worst area is up by Del Range, on the east part of Del Range. Right, Del Range is college. Yeah.
When you had the high tunnel, and that was beautiful production in Laramie County, 7,800 feet. Where's that at?
Those are pictures from all over Laramie County. Some of them were up on Happy Jack.
That's really up to
Yeah, some of them were up on Happy Jack. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I remember that.
The whole different set of rules going on high tunnel. Whole different set of rules. Okay, unless you want to do another one. No, enough. So take the test. The test is easy. It's an open book test. It's an open internet test. Just make sure you get your right source. If you really get stuff, call me. But the test is the next step. You become a master gardener intern. And then from there, you work on getting your hours, and then we'll graduate in October. Have a big party in October. Yeah, we'll get together on the 16th, and then they'll probably do some other times. Then we'll get together, then there's the big plant sale on the 14th of May. But we'll have workshops throughout the summer. And we'll travel a little bit, you know, gas prices going. We'll travel over to Laramie. I'd love to get back down to CSU.
How am I going to pay back dollars for doing different things? My house got $3 now.
No. But anytime you spend with me on a field trip or a workshop or a program, I'm going to try to do, the Audubon Society is doing a hummingbird, garden for hummingbirds. And they're doing that on the 16th. And so I'm going to try to open it up and have post it here in this room. Because it's sold out of the place. So I'll continue to find things for you guys to do and build your hours.
Do we just need to keep going to the Laramie County Master Gardener webpage to figure out what the events are, or will we just
emails out. Yeah. Yeah. Try not to be obnoxious with the emails, but yeah. So here's another event coming up on the 26th. It's out in pruning workshop in Nebraska. I'll have to look at the email again, but yeah. So there's all sorts of stuff coming up, and we'll do a pruning workshop on May 4th, and that'll be here. And I'll let you, and you'll count the hours for that. So because it's outside of the 10-week class program, so those hours will count. And that'll be at least 2 hours there with that's for the sale to get hours for the growing. Yep. So I'll let you count.
Because it's not that much.
Right, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a couple hours. Okay, yeah, but that'll count.
So is there a contact person for the plant?
We watch this.
Is this a-
Everything. Yeah, but that's what I said. But there needs, that mother. And I'll remember to send out the email.
So we need to coordinate anything for the plant sale with her if we're gonna help or.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Christina Johnson's the volunteer wrangler. Yeah. So she'll be sending an email out shortly. So there's gonna be lots of opportunities. The plant sale is intense. You know, the day before is intense setting up, and the plant sale itself is crazy. Last year, I've never seen a plant sale like that before. We opened the doors up at 8 o'clock, and there were people lined up and out around and outside the building. And it was like, and the plants were gorgeous. They were warm, they were beautiful, it looked like a florist shop in there. And by 10 o'clock, everything was just about gone. By 1 o'clock, we were sold out. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. I just had to stay out of the way.
We can start going to the Master Gardener Club meetings as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those count too.
That's third Thursday?
Third Thursday, here, this room, 6:30. So the 17th is our Master Gardener meeting. And you're all welcome to it. You're all invited. It's a good way to meet people, wear your name badges. I'll try to remember everybody to do that. And we have someone now that does hospitality, so we'll have coffee and tea and maybe a snack. So. Take your test. Not that hard. Go over it on the 16th. Yeah. Call your neighbors.
Or black.
Yeah. So I'll see you on the 16th. Have a good week. Yeah.
Catherine, where exactly do I show up on Friday? Noon or whenever.
They're open.
The science class.
Right, they're open. It's Friday.
Oh, that was Mary, yeah.
Did you get some more? Yeah, take them. God knows I don't.
I don't need them either, but I'm.
Yeah, guys.
And then
That's why I brought
there's
them.
gonna be a legend or something that says this will.
That's for good luck. Well, you're welcome. Give me more. I'll see you next week.
Okay.
I have, and I didn't even know this, I have Mrs. America Inspirational Miss. You know, they're young teens to 20s that are beauty queens. And they do a lot of pageants. They do a lot of MCs, so they're not MCs. And so I will have a queen at my conference. I couldn't get the American Beekeeping Confederation's honey queen, but I will still have a queen for my conference. There was a little chair. Let me up there.
Just sitting there, just writing. You might see me again next week.
I'm not quite sure what she's doing.
Very much.
But I will inquire and find out. No,
building. Okay, I'll be all right. A lot of stuff I'm saying Saturdays.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, if I run short, that's like next time I respond. Help plant or talk to school kids. My weekends are Sunday. That's what I do. And I work till 6 p.m., 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I am willing to do my time. I'm gonna have to work. Okay.
We'll make it happen.
Okay.
Do you want us to cite sources on our answers so on the test? Okay. You don't want a thesis?
I don't want a thesis. I've had theses before.
I got that one from you. That's it. Suzanne or Lucy, so my concern so much is, you know, when you don't.
Yeah,
I do not know. So I don't
You
know
have
how
them, yeah.
to. Okay.
And I'll double check it. Nothing is bouncing back.
Yeah.
I'm not getting anything that says this didn't go out.
Right.
And I don't know, check your filters to see. Yeah.
I got that one from you and I got the one from the secretary. Or from somebody else, and then I got one about the seed in the library. But that's the only three I've got.
Okay, send me your email again.
Okay.
And I'll re-answer it and see. if I think that's straight up.
Yeah, because otherwise, I'm getting all the emails. I either ask Susanna, Lucinda, hey, the emails come out in the last week, and then they forward them to me. But I'm not catching the educational things that are happening.
Are you following the design?
And then through the summer, I won't. We don't get this straightened out, but I will send you.
I'm surprised, I gave all the emails to the master gardener group, so you should be getting emails from them too. Well, they haven't been sending a lot. We try not to overwhelm it.
I got one about the seed thing, and that was the only one I had.
Okay, we'll just try it.
So, I will send it to you.
I have the same problem. She gets them, so
but it's not
there's
you.
something in my folder.
It's filters.
I've had that problem for years.
Sometimes those filters are just,
And
I don't know how to change it.
I
I mean, I've changed dates.
Well, I've got
It's
a new
been-
one from. Yeah. So.
So I have a question about.
Oh, lay down. All of that.
Can you like?
Oh, yeah. So their yard is huge.
I think the like man that did it.
They live in town, but they have like 2 acres. So they could do it there, like.
His PDF came through.
It's like a pool in your yard. It's not that big.
Oh, yeah, no.
and that just eats your.
Well,
You
Credit
should
card.
be able
But I
to, when you go.
I
to
couldn't
print, you
change
should
it
be able to.
once it was in a PDF.
Yeah, once
Oh,
let you change it, yeah.